Have you ever heard about a group of people who live by the banks of the Ganges River? Beings who eat from human skulls smear their bodies with the ashes of the dead and are considered holy by some but feared by others. Who are they really, and why did they choose to live in cremation grounds, far from civilization, and perform rituals that, for us, seem impossible and hair-raising? Do you know, is this just a legend that has been exaggerated by stories? Or is there really a sect that believes that death itself is the path to enlightenment? Today we will take a glimpse into the dark and mysterious world of the Aghori, the most extreme sect in India that boldly challenges the boundaries between the sacred and the profane, between life and death, and between humans and God. Just sit there, but don't get too relaxed because what you're about to hear might change your perspective on life and death forever. But before we start, if you're new to our channel, please don't forget to subscribe so you'll always be updated with videos like this. Imagine a group of people who willingly distance themselves from society's standards, living among remains, meditating right at the cremation grounds, and doing things that seem strange to us. But they're not criminals, nor are they just ordinary strange people. They are the Aghori. The Aghori is an ancient sect of mysticism from India, a branch of the very old Hindu tradition focused on the worship of Lord Shiva. But don't confuse them with ordinary sadhus. The Aghori represent the most extreme form of worship of Shiva, the god known as the destroyer and lord of time and death. It is believed that this sect began in the 14th to 17th centuries as a more radical branch of the Aghori Kapalika, an ancient group also devoted to Shiva. Since then, the Kapalika have been known for their unusual rituals and spiritual practices. The Aghori believe that by accepting and confronting the things that people fear the most, such as death, corpses, blood, and even filth, they can attain moksha, the complete liberation of the spirit. For them, nothing is truly impure. Everything is a form of God. They break all social boundaries, not out of rebellion, but as the highest form of spirituality. According to the Aghori belief, if God is in everything, then there is nothing that people should find disgusting. This includes corpses, graves, and even the concept of sin. For the Aghori, there is no difference between the sacred and the impure, good and evil, beautiful and disgusting. All of these, according to them, are just illusions of the material world. Even the most extreme situations they live in are, to them, an illusion. Not to show off, but to destroy the ego, kill fear, and ultimately unite with Shiva. Imagine a city that never sleeps, not because of lights or noise, but because of the cremation fires that never go out day and night, year after year. This is Varanasi, one of the oldest cities in the world that is still alive today and considered sacred by Hindus. This is not an ordinary dwelling. In Varanasi, death is not the end. It is accepted as the gateway to liberation. The Ganges River, which flows through the heart of the city, is believed to cleanse sins, even the sins brought by a tainted life. That is why Hindus bring their loved ones here to undergo cremation, hoping that their souls will attain moksha. But for Aghori, this place is more than just sacred. This is their spiritual laboratory. Here they hone the deepest form of mental silence amidst the smell of burning flesh and the sobs of grieving families. For them, cremation grounds like Manikarnika Ghat are not frightening. This is the very center of their spiritual practice. And if you're asking why it's by the side of the Ganges River, it's because according to their beliefs, the Ganges is the physical form of the goddess Ganga, who guides souls to the spiritual realm. Bathing in its waters is not just a simple ritual. It is a merging of oneself with the divine energy. And because the remains around are symbols of mortality, the focus shifts to letting go, to releasing attachment to the body, to fear, and even to the very idea of life itself. Here they are challenged by the very limits of existence, sitting beside death to understand the true meaning of life. For most people, death is the end, a dark point that appears, the opposite of the light of life. But this is not Aghori's perspective. Aghori sees life and death as a whole, like day and night in a continuous cycle. They don't believe in the boundaries created by society, sacred and unclean, beautiful and disgusting, light and darkness. For them, Everything is part of a sacred death. In Aghori's teachings, all beings are manifestations of the god Shiva, including filth, blood, remains, and even the human body. That's why they train themselves to accept everything, even the most extreme things, as pure in the presence of the divine. Here, Aghori seeks spirituality in the places most forgotten by people, in cemeteries, cremation grounds, and around remains that are considered unclean. They believe that here, in the most complicated and painful parts of the world, the purest and strongest presence of Shiva can be found. Here, the greatest potential is also open. When it comes to reincarnation, Aghori has a deep perspective. They believe that the soul is repeatedly reborn, continuously attached to karma until it finally lets go of its attachments to the material world and once again unites with Brahman, the highest consciousness. However, this is not like the typical Hindu devotee who attains liberation through prayer and devotion. The Aghori follow a path full of challenges. They face fear, disgust, and suffering directly. For them, only by passing through the darkest parts of yourself can you achieve true liberation. On the banks of the Ganges River, when the night swallows the last light, you will see the remains that have not yet been burned, lying between the ashes and the half-burned wood. Here you will see an Aghori sitting in a lotus position with a peaceful and calm face. Slowly, he will take a piece of flesh from the body and eat it. This is not a crime or cruelty, it is a highly sacred ritual. This is perhaps the most shocking thing that Aghori do. It is not for shock value and not to cause harm. They do not kill or steal remains. They only use bodies that have been left behind, or are floating as a symbol of complete surrender to God. In their belief, nothing is unclean. No matter the condition of the human body, it was created by the divine. By eating the flesh, they destroy the disgust and attachment to the body, which they consider to be just an illusion in this temporary world. This ritual is the highest form of freedom from the ego. Only Aghori who have reached a certain level of spiritual awareness perform this. When you look at an Aghori, the first thing you'll notice is their body covered in white to gray ash. But this is not ordinary ash. This is ash from the bodies of the deceased that were burned on the banks of the Ganges River. And if you're wondering again why they do this, in Aghori spirituality, ash is a symbol of the end of everything. Dead things, human bodies, ego, and even life itself. Ash symbolizes mortality, and by putting it all over their bodies, the Aghori declare that they have died to the world and live only for spiritual truth. Covering oneself with ashes from the remains is not just a symbol. It is also a ritual. It is a meditation in which they destroy all shame, disgust, and fear of the dead body. In this way, they feel a closer connection to purity in the body, a state that can only be achieved when the ego is completely destroyed. For Aghori, ash is not dirty. It is a sacred garment. They wear it not to scare others, but as a reminder that all life will become ash someday. The Kapala, the Sanskrit word for human skull, is not just a simple object for Aghori. It is a highly sacred tool. They use the skull as a cup to drink water, milk, even alcohol as part of their spiritual rituals. However, the skull is not chosen randomly. It is selected and sanctified through a particular ritual. Sometimes it takes several days before it is considered worthy to be used as a medium in the ritual. In some practices, the Kapala is used in ceremonies. In the worship of Rafa, the wrathful aspect of Lord Shiva. And if you're asking again, why Tengorak? It's because inside the human head is where the highest level of consciousness is hidden. When a person passes away, the consciousness leaves the body, but the vessel, the Tengorak, remains as a symbol of spiritual presence. By using the Kapala, Aghori shows respect for death, and at the same time unites himself with the highest truth, that life is temporary. More than just a simple eating utensil, the Kapala is a bridge to the spiritual realm, a symbol that they have overcome humanity's greatest fear, death itself. Bhairava is the fierce aspect of Lord Shiva, the god of death, time, and destruction. In this form, Shiva is no longer silent. He is wild energy, armed, shaking the world, and destroying ego and illusion. This is the form that the Aghori choose to worship. They believe that true freedom, or moksha, can only be attained by destroying all attachments, including fear, disgust, and attachment to the material world. And the infant Rafa is a symbol of the destructive force that shatters illusions and opens the path to the highest consciousness. In the infant Rafa, they see the truest face of God, not the pleasant and agreeable form, but the one that disturbs, unsettles, and intensifies spiritual awareness. Because in life, true enlightenment often does not come from comfort, but from facing the deepest fears. Baba is also considered the guardian of Aghori. He is the only sacred entity who can accept their extreme practices, because he is also the guardian of the boundary between the world and the afterlife. By uniting with Baba, the Aghori believe that they can transcend reality and be freed from the cycle of birth and death. The spiritual path of the Aghori cannot be attained through simple prayer. They follow sadhana, a rigorous and silent practice performed in cremation grounds in the middle of the night, sometimes at the edge of physical and mental extremity. Their meditation is not centered on silence, but on the complete acceptance of darkness. Coughing beside the corpse, breathing in the smell of burning flesh, or staring into the lifeless eyes of the Tengurak, for them, none of this is frightening. This is training the mind to overcome one's own ego. The Aghori use tantric mantras, especially when invoking energy Bhairava or Mahakali. The mantras are chanted in a low tone until the mind is immersed in a divine consciousness. That is the Aghori, and every detail of their appearance has a profound reason. They allow their hair to grow long and unkempt, matted and untended. For most people, it may look dirty or neglected, but for the Aghori, this is a form of resistance against ego and attachment to the physical body. They don't care about outward appearance because they free themselves from society's illusion of beauty and order. In Hindu mythology, Lord Shiva himself is described as having matted hair as a sign of infinite spiritual power. By imitating this form, they not only show their devotion, but also unite themselves with the divine aspect of the form. The cremation ash that covers their bodies is not just decoration. It is a sacred cloak, a reminder that everything will end as ash, including their own bodies. This is not dirt. It is a symbol of emptiness and the temporary nature of all material things. Each layer of ash is a meditation, silently clinging to the skin as protection against the illusions of the world. They often do not wear any clothing or only cover certain parts of their bodies with a cloth. This is not an extreme action. It is a statement. They believe that clothing is a symbol of attachment, status, and identity, all things that connect people to illusion. By giving up clothing, they present themselves in humanity's purest form, without attachment to culture or class. The human Tengurak they carry or use as a kapala is sacred. They do not consider it a dead object, but a symbol of consciousness that has left the world. The Tengurak is a farewell. Malala in death, there is no power and no ego. There are some Aghori who add decorations to their bodies, such as bones, bracelets made from human teeth, or necklaces made from animal bones. This is not to scare others, but to break the boundaries between life and death, sacred and profane, spiritual and material. The appearance of the Aghori is more than just an outward look. It is a visual language of their inner struggle, a way to show that they have already left the world, even before their bodies die. For some in Indian society, the Aghori are frightening. Almost naked, bodies covered in ash and often sitting beside the dead, they keep many people away. Even in the spiritual city of Varanasi, locals rarely speak to them directly. They are respected, but there is a real distance. Behind the fear, there is a secret admiration. Many believe that the Aghori possess supernatural powers. They can heal serious illnesses, drive away evil spirits, or grant powerful blessings. So in times of depression, there are people who seek out the Aghori, asking for help, even if they have some doubts. Their status in society is unique and distinct. They are not beggars, nor are they vagrants. And they are not part of the official Hindu society. The Aghori are outside the system. They reject caste, they reject wealth, and even names are not important to them. In a society deeply rooted in strict regulations, the Aghori are like a spiritual anomaly. They deny society, yet they are admired in a mythical way. They are rejected as guardians of the oldest and most extreme traditions of idolatry. They represent the dark side of spirituality, This is rarely talked about, but their presence is still necessary. Even at major festivals like the Kumbh Mela, where millions of devotees gather, the presence of the Aghori always attracts attention, not because of their numbers, but because of their aura. For ordinary people, the Aghori are a part of life. Are they saints or something different? Are they searching for God, or have they already found him in the darkness? The answer to this is really unclear. When you hear the name Aghori, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? Is it a terrifying creature that eats corpses? A dark sorcerer performing strange rituals at night? Or a spiritual person who is unmoved by the material world? But the question is, do all of these things really happen? Or are they just legends that grow because of fear and lack of knowledge? In the modern world that craves sensation, the position of the Aghori is often seen as a mystical character and half-legend. Many documentaries focus only on the extreme acts of the Aghori, such as eating human flesh or performing rituals to summon spirits. Meanwhile, some YouTube channels and viral articles exaggerate the story using scary narratives and added supernatural elements that are not necessarily true. In reality, not all Aghori do strange things. Only a few truly follow the darkest path, such as eating human remains or living in cremation grounds. Most are more focused on meditation, self-reflection, and quietly seeking spiritual enlightenment. There's also a legend that the Aghori hunt or use black magic to harm others. Stories like these are more based on movies and legends, not concrete evidence. Many of them are avoided by most people and rarely interact with others, except when someone comes to learn or ask for blessings. The media plays a big role in shaping the image of the Aghori as frightening, with matted hair, skulls, ash, and remains. But all of these have a deep spiritual meaning that cannot be captured by the camera or sensationalized in features. On the other hand, it cannot be denied that some of their practices are real and controversial. However, context is often lost in popular narratives. They do this not for terror or intimidation, but to transcend the limitations of reality and discover the highest meaning of existence. So, are all the stories about the Aghori true? The answer is not all of them. But are they just legends? The answer is also no. The Aghori truly exist, but their reality is more complicated, deeper, and more spiritual than just a simple scary story. After we examine the dark, mysterious, and question-filled world of the Aghori sect, we truly see one thing. What appears frightening on the outside is not always evil on the inside. The Aghori are not about fear or cruelty. They are the truest reflection of a bold spirituality, a spirituality that is not afraid of death, disgust, or silence. They live on the edge of the world, but their purpose is not to avoid life. Instead, they go deeper into it, facing illusion, burning the ego, and conquering fear in a unique way. If you enjoyed this video and gained a new perspective on spirituality and Indian culture that you may not have heard before, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel, because it really helps us continue to bring you deep and high-quality content. Thank you so much for watching until the end, and we'll see you again in our next video.